Hello, everyone. Hey, Doug and Kirk. See, we have lots of people joining. Can you hear me all right, Elliot?
I can.
Great. Hey, look at that guy.
Hey, John.
Who let him in?
Tom O'Shea here. How you doing?
I'm good, Tom. How are you? I knew it was you. I could tell.
You meet so many people like who are we little fish in the sea here?
Not true. Not true. Well, thank you for taking the time.
No, great. Thanks for doing this.
We have Mike Lawson on, and we'll get started
just
here.
got here.
Hey, Mike.
Of all the days for the internet or my Wi-Fi to like not work, so I've been scrambling.
No problem. Well, go ahead, put you on. I'd like everyone who's called in, if you don't mind, to mute. And we'll get started here in just about a few minutes because we have a ton to go through. It's been an overwhelming response to this. And so I'll get started here in just a few minutes. You like my new backdrop, Mike?
I love it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Is that the green
Thank you.
screen?
No, I painted my wall like this last night.
Did you? The detail is immaculate.
Very nice.
You know, I didn't think I'd be very good at it, but turns out I had a lot of time on my hands. I really can't go anywhere. So probably going to paint the rest of the house this way as
So
well.
you're expanding your painting proficiency, huh?
Yeah. I
Well, that's
thought that
good.
would work
It's a good
out.
start.
Thank you.
Goodness.
I see that Doug is here. Hello, Doug.
Morning, John.
Thank you for joining and thank you for sponsoring this.
Absolutely.
We certainly appreciate your support. And we'll get rolling literally just here in a few minutes. And as people join, hopefully we'll have everyone there. Have a feeling we'll have more coming in as time goes on. Some are probably figuring out Zoom, those sorts of things. So
Zoom, by the way, is awesome. So I'm giving a huge shout out to Zoom.
yeah, I don't know why you don't use more Zoom. You're always Skyping.
Well, my calls now, just as an aside, I'm pretty much 50-50 Skype, Zoom now. It used to be like 100% Skype, and now the more and more people are using Zoom, it's about 50-50 now.
Well, I'll tell you, people keep asking me, what should we invest in during this time? This is a company to invest in given what we're going through. I would definitely put some money into Zoom. So
I hear that loud and clear.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen here and I'm going to get started. Like I said, we've got just so much people coming, and so I wanted to just get rolling. And you can be my help here. Can you see my screen, Mike?
I can. Thank you for doing that.
Hey, no problem. All right, well, we'll get rolling. You're welcome to keep your video on or off. It's up to you. This is our first CU Digital Town Hall. And Mike Lawson, I didn't advertise him, but I will now, was kind enough to join me. He does a lot of this sort of thing, and I really wanted to do the best we could. I don't mind saying you're all guinea pigs. I'm not sure how this is going to go. But one thing I can tell you is this is not about me talking and yakking at you. This is about you talking to each other. And I've tried to create a way to do that. So I'll share what that looks like. Obviously, Mike and I will be running this. We've had an overwhelming response to this. There's another one of these meetings scheduled later today. I capped them at 20 crayons, and that might not even be, that might be too big. I hope to find out today, but my goal is just to get it through everyone and give everyone a chance to speak about what's going on, what they're seeing, what they're sharing. And we're going to talk about how to facilitate some collaboration and communication between you. For those of you that don't know, this will be recorded and it will be posted. It'll also be turned into a podcast so other people can listen. So if there's confidential things that you don't want to talk about, please keep that in mind. But we hope that you'll be candid and share with us. So the format is we have limited registration. So we now have over 100 crayons signed up. We have 5 of these scheduled already. After a quick introduction, you're going to be introduced one by one, and you get to talk about what you want for 5 minutes. I put the credit unions in alphabetical order. I have a slide with demographic information for each of you. However, it's pulled from NCUA.gov, so please don't get mad at John if your number of members aren't right or your asset size isn't right or whatever. We're just trying to give everybody some sense of the scope of the credit union so that you don't have to do that. You don't have to spend your 5 minutes doing that. If you feel compelled to dig deeper with any other individual credit union, or we're going to show you how to use the private chat feature. And by the way, Elliot Cotto, who's our chief creative officer, is on the chat. So if you have questions, he will answer that. If there's information you think the broader audience should know, you're more than welcome to either bring it up during your chat time or post links in the public chat, which will show as well. If there's a sense that something is worthy of a longer discussion, in other words, maybe there needs to be a separate discussion, we're actually going to send those over to CU Broadcast, and Mike will schedule a meeting and have a longer discussion about that.
Yeah, more than happy to accommodate. Because again, I think time is limited here, but and rightfully so, because a lot of people need to go back and forth. But yeah, if you want to continue the conversation on to CU Broadcast, we can do another 5-minute, 10-minute, 15, 20-minute interview or discussion to go into a bit more detail. So everybody's always welcome. So yeah, thank you for doing that, John.
As I mentioned, this will be recorded and published. You'll all get a copy of it. It'll be pushed on the website. I think CU Broadcast is going to post it as well. And we will be sending out notes from it. So Big will send you notes from what we see and what we find. Here is Zoom's chat feature for those of you who've never used it before. If you're looking at the Zoom, if you see there's, and by the way, the little bar in the bottom isn't there unless you mouse over it. So it kind of hides itself, but you can see there's a chat feature. You probably want to click that now so that you open up the Zoom chat group so that you can see it. So I'd like for everybody to do that. If you don't mind, just put in a little test that you can see so we can all see that you're putting, your chat is working. Perfect. And then on the bottom right there is probably the most important thing. There is a little drop down. Right now it says to everyone. However, you can go in and privately ask for someone's information. So for example, if Tom, and Tom, I'm just going to use you as my guinea pig here for a second. If Tom says something that you believe that is worthy of more discussion, and I know Tom well, he'd be happy to do this. If you hit him on the chat and ask him for his private information or whatever it is, or a person to talk to at his credit union, pretty sure he'll facilitate that for you and you guys can talk. So that's what we're hoping is to foster collaboration here. And so that's how we want to do it. It's 20 people. It would be a lot if everybody was all talking at once. So this was my plan to try to do it. As I said, we're guinea pigs here. And this is the very first one. I hatched this idea late on a Monday night with my head in my hands because I'm furloughing people and trying to figure out what to do. And I realized I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers, but collectively we probably do. And I wanted to get everybody together. By the way, I like the space theme for whoever that is. That's
cool. That's cool, Nate.
I have a space theme too. I could do that as well.
Thanks.
I don't want him one up at me.
I have to hide that I'm in my closet.
By the way, Nate is also part of Cousins and
that's
helped
the
us
coolest
out
closet
a
I've
lot,
ever seen.
getting this out, getting the word out. So I'll start off. I'm going to give a couple of my ideas that I think are important. I'll go quick. I will tell you, just being frank and honest and candid, since we're being candid here, as you know, Big is into the innovation type of things. But right now, while innovation is important, things like Alexa and the stuff we were doing are not the top of your list. And as a result, we're in distress. But we think we have skills to help you. And we'll throw out a couple ideas. If you see a couple things and you think we can help, please reach out to us on the chat. The first one is this. I wrote an article about this. I don't know if you got a chance to read it, but when everything crashed and burned in 2008, I was working at a large credit union, and we lost 90 million in a year. We let go a lot of the people. We closed branches. It was tough times. This is far worse, and I realized that. But one thing that I did figure out was very early was there was a canary in the coal mine for us to discover people who were losing their jobs. And it was super simple. it was monitoring remote deposit. If you can or want to, certainly we can help with this. I would start monitoring remote deposit right now. If it suddenly stops, it's likely that that member is not being paid anymore. They had a job that is, that they can't perform at home, or they were laid off due to the economic stress. And to get out ahead of it, it would be great if you could call them. If you don't have a job like this, we have analytics professionals across the board on most hosts. We are happy to help you, and we're looking for work. So, but if you could do it yourself, please, by all means, do it and start some outbound calling, some outbound outreach. The second one, I think, is a big one, is if you have a skip-a-pay program. I think this could be the difference between making it a few months and not making it a few months. And a lot of people have these, but they run them as seasonal. I'd like to see maybe if you could automate them and run them full time. We have written a lot of skip-a-pay programs in this system in our previous job as home banking developers, as well as doing work for credit unions for the staff side of things. This is a great one, because if someone can skip some $600 in payments, maybe with a credit card and an auto, you get a win, and that you get to extend that loan. They get a win, and they keep that money in their pocket. To me, it's one of the best kept secrets of the credit union industry. So without further ado, we're going to jump right to the people. And here's my comments. When you get your time, you're going to get 5 minutes. I'm going to be kind of strict about it, because I want to get through everybody. If we get time at the end, I'll definitely take questions. And what I'd like to hear from you is, what are you facing? What are your concerns? What are you doing that's winning? If you've got something you do, like for example, in the chat forum, which let me put it here, hang on. In the chat forum, we had somebody post, they set up a hotline for members who were ill. I think that's a great idea. We also will be sending out a survey, and we're trying to collect what credit unions are doing so we can put it in one place. We hope you'll fill it out. Tim Tibbles, who is on, is our data analytics and data scientist. We already have a lot of credit unions that are already closing their branches. And, a lot of us look to other credit unions as to why. Here's a bunch of them that are already saying, look, we're closing the lobby and we're just doing drive-through. But some of you don't have drive-throughs. Are you having members complain about the ATMs? Just what challenges you're facing. And if you have solutions, that's great. And if you're seeking solutions, let us know. And maybe somebody's got an answer out there. Yep. So these are the kinds of things that we're seeing in terms of communication. One last thing is, on the same page as the town hall, there is a forum. And we've never had a forum on our website before. We hope that you will engage in this. This is a place to keep the conversation going, so other people can see. It's out there for you. It's free. Sign up, and we already had some good conversation about. And one of my questions is, what to do if a member comes in all sweaty and sick? That'll freak everybody out. How do you handle that? And those are the kinds of things that are going to crop up, that while we're rushing to get people to work remote and deal with our call centers, there are other things happening, and I'm hoping that the collective can help us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up your credit union. When you see your credit union on the screen, if you could unmute, and I'm going to start the timer when you start talking. We've already put your statistics of your credit union up, but it'd be nice if you could introduce yourself and your position, and then share with us for 5 minutes what you're facing, or whatever it is you think the group needs to hear. So here we go. Mike, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. So Forefront, one of our clients, and one of our IC members.
Thanks, John, and thanks for putting this together. We really do appreciate it. This is Zach Eichener. I'm our Senior Vice President of Strategic Innovation here at Forefront Credit Union in Traverse City. We have been obviously going through a lot with this whole process and kind of the scare here, both internally and externally. So what I'm going to do, though, I did invite a few of our executive team members, and our Senior Vice President of Finance is in charge of our risk side as well in BCP. His name's Carl Poggle. I'm going to go ahead and yield to him for kind of a recap of what we're doing and some of the concerns and questions we still have.
Yeah, Thank you, Zach. So again, this is Carl. We've been trying to do as much as we can to get ahead of this. However,
Hey, Carl, can you get just a little closer to the microphone? I'm sorry.
yes, I can. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Perfect. Like I was mentioning, we've been trying to stay ahead of this as much as we can. However, we acknowledge that this is a very kind of fluid situation, especially as we look at how this has escalated over the past few days. I think we originally started on Monday consolidating branches. So we had multiple branches in one general kind of location. We try to consolidate those while still having some of those lobbies open. And we've also did that based on the amount of other avenues that members could conduct transactions at those potentially closed branches, whether there were ATMs, ITMs available. As of today, we've actually closed all of our branch lobbies.
Wow.
We do have ATMs, ITMs open, but we are also allowing members to call to set up appointments for in-person meetings. That being said, we haven't, as of right now, released any of our operational staff. We have them there both to kind of help those appointments, also help increase call volume and call times that we've been seeing from our contact center as well. But also we've been generally trying to use this time to help alleviate some of the tasks that have been on the backlog for those other individuals as well, whether that's scanning documents or other things like that. The one thing that we have been seeing as far as transaction volume, we've seen decreased transaction volume, but that also makes sense without having lobbies open, etc. We haven't seen a whole lot of members try to either close their account or take out a significant dollar amount of kind of funds from the liquidity side. But we're still monitoring that as closely as we can. We have upped the cash amounts at all of our ITMs and ATMs, basically trying to max those out just in case there are members out there that are requesting cash. The one potential concern that we're kind of continuing to monitor is making sure that our vendor bricks related to maintaining those cash amounts at ITMs and ATMs continues generally to operate. That could be a potential concern. So we're going back through looking at their contingency plans in case drivers or their operators become ill as well. We're not seeing, as of right now, any really increased activity from a fraud side. Again, that's as of right now. We've actually been able to kind of focus a little more on that as well without the increased kind of transactional amount holistically, but we haven't seen any significant fraud events coming through, at least the risk management department or fraud department as of yet. The one thing that we are, I would say, struggling with is trying to figure out compensation and or pay time off, sick leave, etc., with our own internal employees. As of right now, we're basically trying to mandate that if we send you home for any reason, so for instance, we don't need all of our branch staff, so we may send some home as almost to build a bench strength in case people do start calling in sick. We have been paying those individuals their current salary that they have. We are trying and dealing with the grayness that is out there for if someone potentially is sick, says they're sick, based on our current policy, that individual is using their paid time off or vacation for those hours. Same thing if someone may be in contact with someone who may be sick. As of right now, that's a paid time off. Schools are closed in our local area. So if an individual is taking time off to care for a child that is not sick, they're not sick, again, same thing with paid time off. But again, there's a whole lot of grayness within this, and we're trying to figure out and navigate to at what point, and this is where it's a question to the group as a whole, how is everyone else dealing with these potential ramifications, especially as it relates to travel, self-quarantine? Are those individual decisions, and therefore you were asking individuals to use vacation time, pay time off, or are multiple institutions or any institutions paying for individuals to do that, understanding that generally we still want to maintain an operational institution, so having a blanket everyone is now off for 2 weeks does not allow that to happen. The other thing we're trying to do from a logistical side is to split up critical departments or critical tasks that are related to departments. So there are some things that you are all aware of that need to occur on a daily, weekly, whatever basis. We're trying to, again, talking about social distancing, et cetera, we're trying to split up those individuals as much as we can. So that's potentially moving individuals from where they're currently located into one of the closed branches that we have. That way, if individuals do get sick or are quarantined in one location, we potentially have built-in backups already to hopefully post or do whatever kind of those critical tasks or functions are.
Great. So I'm going to stop you just because right at 5, thank you so much. That's a great point. The thing I was going to ask, and it seems like you've handled it already, is, and it's a concern for everyone, is the call center is a lot of people that are in fairly close proximity. And if one of them turns up and comes back and says, hey, I tested positive, doesn't that kind of take your whole call center out? But it sounds like you're taking steps to do that. So fantastic. If anybody has any answers to those questions, and put them in the chat. I think it would be great to throw those out there. And also, if you want to coordinate with Forefront, as I said, they're one of our clients, brand new client, and we're happy to have them in our innovation club, which is what spawned this. Zach just attended one just recently, and we have a big go around, and everybody likes that. So thank you so much. And for those of you that want to reach out, I think Zach is the name that's on there. And you can reach out and talk about that with them. And Carl, thank you for such great detail. All right, moving on. The illustrious Kevin Wright, I'm sure. Kevin, you there? Or whoever has joined from Addition. Thought it was Kevin, but maybe not. All right, if we don't have, we'll come back to them. Let's move on. Alaska, USA. If you can unmute yourself. Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah. I was just about to say the same thing if you guys are on mute.
I think Alaska has just come on. Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Let's see who we have. All right, we'll come back to him. APCU, Atlanta Postal Credit Union. I'll give him a second to unmute. Hello? Elliot, can you look through the speakers and see if they're here? Oh, we got a chat here. He says he's here. So, okay, we'll just keep going then.
Yeah, it's me, John. Joe Meraki from Launch.
Oh, hey, Joe.
Oh, John.
Yeah, I'm here, so I'll just go ahead and report out if that works for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah, to kind of build on some of the stuff that Zach did and some of the questions that came up, we have taken some additional measures regarding our staff with PTO. We actually.
Oh, Joe, can you give your position and things for the folks on the call?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. Joe Meraki. I'm the CEO here at Launch, $800 million credit union here at the on the Space Coast of Florida, East Coast of Florida, Brevard and Volusia counties, sort of east of Orlando. So we have about 270 employees. We actually modified our PTO, our attendance policy, probably a couple of weeks ago now, relaxed the attendance rules so that typically if someone, calls out unscheduled, it's kind of, tabulated and held against them. We relaxed that we were very concerned that we did not want anybody who was, potentially infected to come to any of our locations. So we relaxed our attendance rules. We allowed them to go now 40 hours PTO negative, but then we also instituted that if anybody is identified as being at risk or has been in contact with anybody that has been at risk, essentially, potentially has been exposed, they automatically qualify for an additional 10 days of PTO, so fully paid. And we're asking them to, quarantine themselves for 2 weeks. So I think we've had 3 or 4 people that have had to take advantage of that program so far. Obviously, all our travel and outside events have been canceled. We've reduced our in-person meetings to no more than 3 people, and basically conducting everything either by phone or by webinar, including our board meeting, which will be next Monday. We're actually doing all the board and committee meetings by webinar. Let's see, we have, we're practicing the social distancing, so no closer than 6 feet. Took a couple days to get used to, but in order to enact that, in the call center that came up, because they are typically closer than that, we've deployed a bunch of people home. They're working from home if they have laptops. So that's freed up space around the credit union where we can then space people out to avoid the being closer than 6 feet. And then we've instituted extra cleaning. All the departments have their own cleaning supplies as well. So we're doing a lot of cleaning even during the day. We have the professionals come in every night. We've been redeploying staff as needed. We've actually redeployed some over to the mortgage area. Real estate lending is booming with the refis. So we've actually reallocated a couple people over there, trying to find some other special projects to work on as well, because until activity was pretty normal through last week. This week we noticed a definite drop in traffic. As of today, this morning, we are instituting with 4 of our branches. We have 16 total. The restricted access to lobbies by appointment only. So we're hoping to go to that at all our locations here by the end of the week. We've had to modify a whole bunch of procedures so that we can accommodate things at the drive up that we don't normally do. So we can now accommodate most member requests through the drive up. There's a few things like signing on a home equity. We cannot do that with e-signatures. So that's one of the few things they have to schedule an appointment and come into the lobby for. So that's kind of where we're at, I think, with the branches and with the members. I'm trying to think, obviously we've encouraged the use of online services. In terms of debit cards, we have increased the daily number of transactions there as one of the fraud limitations that we typically have. We've gone, I think, from 20 to 40 transactions per day. We just anticipate the members are going to have a lot more smaller transactions, potentially buying things online, getting takeout food, things like that. We are waiving our Skip-a-Pay fee. We have an ongoing Skip-a-Pay program that members can opt into. So yeah, we're waiving that typical fee on that. We have not increased, they talked about increasing the cash withdrawals. We've not increased our limit on the cash withdrawals from the ATMs, which is another fraud prevention. We're not all that keen on encouraging our members to take out a lot of cash.
Where we do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of, we're monitoring that to see if we really need to, but we're reluctant to do that. We get a certain amount of disaster recovery training when these hurricanes come through. And yeah, typically in advance of a hurricane, our members take out a lot of cash, but they're fearful that the ATMs and those type of systems are not going to be working. Don't think that's so much of an issue this time around. So we're trying to discourage members from taking out cash. We've been signing them up for all the electronic services, trying to promote that a lot. We've converted we've pulled a lot of our regular marketing materials, and now it's, messages focused around that, how we can accommodate them and signing up for the electronic services, digital banking, things like that.
So did I hear you right that you've had some staff test positive?
No, we've not. No, we've had staff that have been in contact with someone who maybe had recently traveled to we had somebody that had someone a daughter who had been working in Japan a long time, happened to come home. So neither of them have any of the symptoms, but just proactively, we basically have restricted them from even being in here for 14 days. We're paying them for those two weeks.
Okay.
So no, we have not had anyone come down positive. We've had, I think, our first case in Brevard County was announced yesterday morning up in Volusia County. We covered the two counties. Volusia County, which is the Daytona Beach area, they've had, I think, might be 5 or 6 people, but no one at all close to any of our employees that we're aware of. But we're just, if anyone, again, just kind of comes into contact with someone who had traveled to any of those areas. We had an employee who went on a honeymoon to Iceland and didn't realize Iceland was on the list. So when she came back from her honeymoon, she was told that she had to stay at home for 2 weeks, and she was one of the people that had a laptop available to her, and so she's working from home for 2 weeks. But so that's kind of where we're at.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Any other questions? Feel free.
No, those were great. Yeah. Any further questions? Hit him in chat, and a lot of really good stuff there, like the changes to your ATM policies. One of the places I was just at was members were worried about touching the ATMs.
Yeah.
And so, we've heard some of that as well. So, but I think some really good information. Thank you so much. Since we seem to be doing kind of ready golf here, who wants to go next? We'll just do it that way. Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I'll go. Sure.
All right.
Sure. Thanks.
Spire should have been way up here. Where are
Yeah,
they?
I know. We're alphabetically. We were right there.
Yeah, there you go. You're good.
Top of the list. Like, I don't know what happened. But first of all, thank you for putting this together. I think this is a great opportunity and a great chance for us to put some things out there and get some feedback from around the country. So I think this is going to be really, really helpful. A little bit about Aspire. We are a multi-occupational credit union located in New Jersey. We're essentially a suburb of New York City. So if you've been reading about what's happening in this region at all, we are in a lockdown. Effective today, all of the schools in New Jersey are closed. All the restaurants, bars, theaters, shopping malls, they are all gymnasiums. They're all closed. So it's really pushing people into a hibernate at home. Go back into some cocooning and just live at home, stay at home. Even the supermarkets now have certain hours, morning hours, that are where they are open only for people over 60 years old.
Wow.
So that's how, where we are. And there's talk of a full regional lockdown where everyone will be forced to stay at home. And that may come as early as this weekend. And we fully expect that to come by. But our credit union is a digitally oriented credit union. We have no branches. We have one little member service center here in Clark. But a number of years ago, we closed all of our branches and did a little member self-selection and said, if you want to get service digitally, then you're the person we want as a member. If you need a branch, if you need cash, and you want to go someplace or want to know that you can go someplace, we're not for you. So as a consequence, our membership age has skewed lower. We're getting more digital natives as our members, and these are not cash users. These are not people going into branches. We try to have a very robust product service delivery stack for our members. I like the idea of monitoring the remote deposit capture, because that's a huge part of our business. It's all of our checks come in that way. All of our loans are digitally signed, e-signed, outside of course of a mortgage, which we can't yet do. So we're in a pretty good position from a remote service perspective. And similarly, on the staff side, we've been doing a lot of the same practices. We have staff that work remotely all the time. We have people. We're located in Clark. We have staff in New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, New York State, and they all work remotely. And at this point, as we sit today, any of our staff that want to work from home are working from home. We have people, though, like myself. I'm the CEO of the credit union. But we have offices, so if you want to come in, you can come in. So our HR manager, my admin, our accounting manager, these people are all still coming into the office. So, we give their staff the flexibility at this stage. But if we get locked down and have to work from home, we'll do that starting on, whenever the directive is given. To one of the earlier questions about the sick, we follow our normal sick policy. So if we send you home to work, you're getting paid to work, so everything is good. If you get sick, then we're going to follow whatever our sick and PTO policy is. New Jersey has a fairly robust, let's call it, family leave and medical requirement. So if someone is out for 2 weeks sick, they're not going to lose their job. They'll get paid. Everyone seems to have enough sick time anyway. So we're in a good spot with that. From a concern, the one concern I have that we probably all share is NCUA came out, the chair came out with this letter the other day of things that we should or could do for our members to help them through this. And many of the things that have already been mentioned, we're already either doing or in the process of implementing, increasing card limits and transactions and so on. But my concern is, as we've seen in the past, often these memos and these good ideas don't get trickled down to the NCUA field staff. So on our next examination cycle, we're going to get dinged because, our non-interest income is down because we waived our skipper pay fee. Our process is fully, like you said, John, and our credit union, it's fully automated and we run it 12 months out of the year. It's whenever the member wants to do it. They just go online, click through, and it posts it into the Keystone system that we've got. But that's our fear. We're in a sort of a weakened position because of some other business lines that we've been involved in and we've been recovering. But, we feel that in some cases we're circling the drain with this. And we don't know how long this is going to last, how much deferral or forgiveness of fees and other income we're going to have to give up. And it's existential, quite frankly. It's existential for us. And I could foresee the examiner walking in the door and just, taking a bat to our knees because they didn't, necessarily agree with the ideas or didn't like how, give us a break, give us a chance to work through this instead of just, taking us out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point for, and I actually have Rudy Pereira joining us in one of these. And Rudy is the head of the CUNA CEO Council, which I believe you're on.
Yes.
Certainly something to bring up to him as well, because I think that's the level it needs to go through is all of you sort of at once. Real quick question on your multi-occupational. I know you have a lot of taxi drivers and, or you did.
Yes, we do, right.
Yeah,
that's where it's causing them the biggest pain because the transportation industry in New York is at a standstill. The MTA that runs the subways, buses, is asking for currently asking for a $5 billion federal bailout for the subways and buses. We're seeing it all over, and taxi drivers, because there's no tourism, there's no airport traffic to speak of. But if you look at the streets, some of the pictures of the streets in New York, they're empty. There's just no one there. And we look at the medallion values, and we have medallion loans and participants around the country. That is going to tank, and it's going to tank on a short-term basis, and it'll start to recover down the road. But I can just see the examiners coming in and just not giving us having any mercy for everything we've done to try to recover from what's happened. It's killing us.
Yeah. Hey, Kirk Kordoleski. You have
Good point, Kirk.
Kirk, you have a comment on that, or did you put something out there in the chat? Probably.
Yeah, I sent it out to chat and for everyone, but 2 points that I'd make from Tom. I'm in Nassau County on the other side of the river from Tom and on the other side of Manhattan. And we're hearing news of the lockdown that Tom talked about. And if you think about the lockdown, you no longer have choices as an organization. You won't have branch activity. You've got to figure out how your call center and operations will exist in that scenario being dispersed. And yet, how do you continue to do business in some things that you might not have digitized? So all of that, you guys that are in the rest of the country might have a window of opportunity of a few weeks to work on. The second point that I'd make is that we're hearing tell this morning that, testing has just started effectively in our region, which has been one of the epicenters of the virus. We doubled the numbers overnight with the first day of mass open testing with the disease, and they're expecting it to peak in 45 days. Think about that, right? So to Tom's point, we could be 2 months of lockdown if it's implemented. So those are just some things to think about from those of us sitting in the middle of this. And Tom, you might have more information than I.
Yeah, and it's it's hashtag flatten the curve. It's what the Instagram handle is. It's it's really, really tough. And then following when this curve starts to turn, and I definitely other parts of the country should look at what's occurring on the coasts and in the population centers, and fully expect to see these things coming down the pike. But it's the recovery afterwards. It's going to be a slow recovery. They could turn around tomorrow and say, okay, all the flights are back. People need to get confidence that it's safe and that everything is functioning, and then they're not going to bring it, go home and get sick again. So it's going to be a long slough back to normalcy that I would fully expect is going to consume the remainder of the year once this is taken, if not potentially longer. It's going to be very painful.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. And if you are on this call and you have some, a lot of people get these calls, they're on committees, they're on all these things where they have some influence. Now's the time. Reach out to Tom. The local, the local regulators, those sorts of things. And Tom, we feel for you, and as I do for everyone on this call. That's why we put this together. So that's good information. The other thing is, as you're thinking about these things, how can you help each other? Is there liquidity to be played around with? I don't know. You guys are the super smart ones. When I can make the tech to do whatever it is you want to do, but how could you help each other? So thank you, Tom.
Thanks, John.
Who wants to go next, I guess? Let's see who we got in the call. Spire. Someone piping up in the chat, maybe? No?
This is actually really going fast, John. I mean, there's also 18 minutes left, basically. So, I mean, this is actually really good. So appreciate everyone's participation already. So this is.
Yeah, we had some more people though. Kay, let me see. I know we've got some other Crayons on here. Let's just go through and see what we got, because these are, the signups keep coming. So let's see if anybody else showed up. Anybody from Addition come in yet? Doesn't look like it. Alaska, still no one from Alaska. APCU. All right. Aspire, we already heard from. Aurora. Anybody from Aurora? My hometown here. Okay. Farmers. Crickets, all right. First Financial. Okay. Hudson Valley. All right. Justice. It might be that we got this organized so quickly that it's been difficult for people to keep up.
I think also, John, originally we were going to do this later, but we had so many people that we had to move a lot of these folks earlier, and maybe they just couldn't come earlier.
Yeah, could possibly be. Hopefully they'll sign up for another one. Mayo? Nope. Northwest? Wow. Sandia Labs. Sandia area? Nope. State employees? I think we already had this one out. Together? Anybody from Together? Or are you somewhere together? That's not a good name for a credit union right now. Just kidding. It's going to be one of those
Social
things.
distance credit union now.
UBI. All right, so let's go back and we can hear from a couple of the other folks that are on the call and give them a little more time. Doug, you want to talk a little bit about what Cousins is kind of doing to help your credit union network? Do you have a minute to chat about that?
Sure. Thanks, John, for putting all this together in the environment for sharing. One thing we're doing, and Nate's on the call as well, so Nate, feel free to jump in. But we're acting more as a conduit, trying to work with you, work with our other credit unions, working with co-op and share branching. Members. We've always talked about share branching being one of the ultimate cooperative tools. But unfortunately, as we started off on this discussion earlier today, a number of credit unions are actually closing branches or lobbies, which is significantly impacting the ability to members to go where they're kind of used to going. So the number of choices is going down. So I think it's imperative on us to look at how can we help with more digital choices, because I think the in-person choices are rapidly diminishing. And so I think that's what we're looking at is, what can we do to help credit unions, or what can we help to do, to help the credit union members through some sort of other means. And that's what we're trying to, explore with you and others to, how are we going to do that? Because we know, as it's been said on there, I don't think it started off as, well, we'll kind of do this stuff for 2 or 3 weeks. And we now know that that's not going to happen. So what are we doing? Right now, I would say, we're gathering, collecting information, and we'll disseminate it. But, early on at this stage, we're like a lot of other people. We don't have a lot of answers.
One thing I'll chime in on is something that we started before this really took off for our own purposes, because we serve a lot of credit unions, their back offices, and process daily ACH and check processing and things like that for credit unions. We set up our entire staff to work remotely and tested that back in 2019. So we're really putting it to the test right now. But some of the things that we found that have been hugely successful in making sure we're prepared if we went down some employees is to have each of our employees record their critical daily processes with software like something like Camtasia. Many of those softwares are being offered for free right now throughout this particular scenario we've got going on all the way into the summertime. So be on the lookout for things like Camtasia, Snagit, their products that you can use to have staff in a critical position that maybe doesn't have a backup to record their processes. So anyone that can run a computer within the credit union can maybe jump in and help with some of those processes if you have some key man risk in some of those areas. And that's one of the things that we've done in order to make sure that our staff are trained multiple individuals deep. And it's a recommendation we have for anybody that has that situation. And we are going to be working on putting together some of the software and process and procedure things that we've put in place and sharing that with credit unions.
That'd be awesome.
So that they can do some of those same things.
So the product he's talking about, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead, John.
The product he's talking about comes from a company called TechSmith. It's a fantastic product, and that's a great idea. That's exactly what I'm hoping would come out of this. I'll put the link in the window for everybody. It's super easy to use, and I couldn't agree more, because one of my greatest fears when I was, running WRG and Big and Westcom was, we were running all these service bureaus for everybody, and we certainly had a lot of procedures and everything, but no matter what you do, there's some rote information, and we all have that employee that like we want to put in a bubble, and getting them to record what they're doing, or even other people, I think is a fantastic opportunity. Sorry, Doug.
Oh, no problem. No, I think, you know, the one thing Nate touched on, which has been an issue, which we've been, you know, working on outside of this, is a lot of key man risk. We see that especially in smaller credit unions. And I think it's, you know, critical in today's environment because there's only kind of one person that knows certain things. And if they're the one that's kind of available or out, you know, I think it can be extremely challenging for those departments or those credit unions.
So one thing, since we have time, and there's folks, you know, still here, so I'd like to go back to Zach and Carl. So you guys were looking for information about paid time off for employees, as in my notes. And I've heard, we heard from Launch, we heard from you guys, we heard from Tom. Let's have a little more discussion about that. So what specifically, Carl and Zach, you know, are you guys considering, and maybe Tom or Jim or Joe can comment on it?
Yeah, so this is Carl at Forefront. One of the things that we're potentially considering, well, first of all, is all options, but similar to potential regulatory guidance that at least has been generally out there, not passed everywhere, but it's, do we allow every employee that we have an extra 80 hours worth of PTO or 40 hours worth of PTO, and then take that at their leisure, at their whim, outside of a current kind of PTO policy. In addition, I think someone else mentioned this as well. As of right now, we are allowing our employees to go negative 80 hours in PTO if they do not have the balance. The other thing that we're trying to figure out in an effort to help the, you know, help the transformation of this for individuals that are traveling out of state to self-quarantine when they come back in state when they come here. So again, that's, you know, a 2-week period. Are we then using PTO for that from there? Are we, you know, are we paying them because then we're telling them not to come in? So that's where there's gray areas, in addition to what happens if an employee thinks they've maybe been in contact with someone that has been tested, maybe not positive yet, or how many connections is it before that individual should stay home? Is that, you know, primary contact? Is it, well, they came in contact with somebody who also came in contact with that individual, therefore they should be staying home? So that's where there's a lot of gray area. And when we're talking to our employees, it's difficult to kind of push something out there as a black and white without a whole lot of potential exceptions or unclarity for this.
Joe, you want to speak to that? It seemed like you had a pretty good plan for that, or at least you were doing something along those lines.
Yeah, sure. Actually, my head of HR is in very close contact with the Florida Department of Health, and they basically have guidelines, and so we follow those guidelines. I don't know exactly what they are, but if somebody hits the, you know, based on their guidelines, if someone isn't asked by the Florida Department of Health is considered, you know, needs to be in the quarantine, that's you know, that's what we're triggering for us. But as I said, we've not had anybody really that close yet, but that's what we're relying on that governmental agency to make that call for us.
And you know, there's some wisdom to that. We got contacted by our some of our insurance companies about Keyman Insurance here at Big, and if you're not following whatever the guidelines are, and somehow you get sick and have a problem or something, whatever you have in place may not be honored. So if you as an organization have that sort of insurance or business interruption insurance, but you're not following the guidelines of, say, the Florida Health Department or whatever, there may be some, you know, contesting there. So that's a good point. Carl and Zach, would you guys have access to that in Mississippi or is it, no, pardon me. Yeah, you're in Mississippi, sorry.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan.
MS Mississippi.
I got my M's wrong.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have that. And two, for us, it's trying to potentially be more proactive, you know, than anything else that's out there, in addition to trying to kind of lead with a carrot to have our employees potentially do the correct thing. So can we incentivize them somehow to make correct decisions based on what we're hearing from, whether it's media, but even from, you know, the president's mouth about limiting travel, et cetera? Is there something that we could or should be doing outside of just waiting for the Michigan Department of Health to say this individual needs to be quarantined, therefore there's this?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, John, you know, philosophically, we're going out of our way to accommodate our members, free skip-a-pays and so on, and we have to extend the same philosophy to our staff as well. These are very unique times, and you know, we're gonna look at things on a case by case. But we don't want to lose in the long term. We don't want to lose our people. We've got a really good team, and you know, the cost of losing somebody and having to retrain a new person would far exceed anything we would do for them on a short term. And it's not like they're taking a vacation. They're forced into a certain situation. You know, they want to work. It's just that they're unable or you know, incapacitated at that point. So, you know, we're going to go out of our way to make sure that we support our team.
You know,
Tom, I'm sorry, John. I was going to just add 20 seconds there. Tom, I don't know if this was your experience in 9/11 or Superstorm Sandy, but reaching out and taking care of the staff was the crucial part of getting the service right and the productivity and getting everybody back in sync to serve the members.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We go through all these tabletop exercises and all, and our experience in particular with Superstorm Sandy was pretty much instantly thrown out the window, because the one element at that point we really hadn't fully considered was the family and children. And you know, that's a problem today because a lot of people have childcare responsibilities. The schools are closed. They're doing homeschooling on their computers. And this, you know, according to the schools, they need the parent to supervise the child for the 4 hours or say 3 or 4 hours a day that they're involved. And we've said to our team, we had an all-staff meeting yesterday. We said, just do it and we'll figure it out. Maybe you'll work later in the evening or on the weekend for our call center to make up for the time. But you can't discount the family impact, because that's going to be number one. And it should be. It better be. But, you know, it's something to really consider is how does this type of thing affect a family that's otherwise healthy, even in just getting through the day-to-day responsibilities that they have because of how things have been flipped upside down on them.
That's a great point. I think that, you know, we've always discussed that, you know, somebody's got to choose between family and, you know, your credit union. They're going to choose their family and making accommodations. But it's interesting because you got to think that the members are in the same position. So if there were call center services that were a little later at night or something, that might benefit them because they're trying to do the same thing. I mean, it's sort of adapting to a new normal. One question on the paid time, off. So we're continually hearing the government, Trump is maybe even talking right now for all I know, or going to be talking again. Is there, I didn't hear anybody talk about, hey, we're monitoring what services, what's going to be available to us. How does that play into things? And that's an all play for all the credit unions on the call. Anybody wants to pick it up?
Good question. I
mean,
mean, there's an answer.
Yeah, you know, I'm assuming that at some point, you know, here at Big, we're hoping for that because, you know, a lot of the projects that we're working on, and rightly so, are no longer a priority for the credit unions. That's why we're trying to flip around, you know, the remote deposit, the direct deposit's a big one, being able to find all the direct deposits and when they stop. You know, how many of us have people who are 2-income households where one income's gone? But if the government sends them $1,000, does that hold over? Do you start something to say, hey, if you put that $1,000 with us, we'll match it and give you $100 or something to get some growth? I don't know. I'm just making up stuff. I'm spitballing here.
Yeah, we could do incentives like that to try to attract that money, but I think it's going to be right out the door because it's for food. It's it's for insurances. There's certain bills that
Yeah,
are
but it's got to go in the bank though, because they can't use it as
Yeah.
cash. I was talking to Rudy yesterday. People are just withdrawing cash in California. I'm like, what are you going to do with it?
Well, right. They're stockpiling bottles of water here too. But this is not going to hurt the water supply. It's not something that's in the cards. But there's a lot of irrational behavior that's going on right now. Supermarkets are bare by noontime. It's crazy.
But like double points on your debit for people that are using that to buy, their groceries and have them delivered and their takeout and stuff like that. Maybe that's a plan.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, if we know debit is a play and we know they're going to use card on file, and I think it was Joe, you said, hey, we suspect there'll be smaller amounts, but a lot more of them, that maybe that's a push is to really encourage them to use the debit, because this is a time when they're going to start putting cards in the websites, people who didn't before, and it needs to be your cards.
Yeah, John, this is Joe. If I could follow up on that. Yeah, we actually did our promotion for the second quarter starting in April 1st with Co-op. We have the rewards card. And we were going to do bonus points for eating out at restaurants. Well, that quickly changed. Luckily, we were able to change that before we promoted it and made it for online purchases. So.
But your point is, I mean, should we be encouraging people to go out and buy from their local restaurants and stuff, even if it's without going into the dining room? That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Like one free meal from a local restaurant of your choice, or I don't know. I'm just making stuff. Like I said, I'm spitballing here. This is what this is for. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating because if that goes down, we're done too, right? It's all connected.
Hey, John, it's Kirk. If you think about Bank Transfer Day and the credit unions that excelled through Bank Transfer Day during the 08-09 crisis, it was those that came up with the ideas that you're talking about for enhancing a product at that time. Debit cards, interchange, remote deposit, direct lending, any of those things that can be thought about, but particularly interchange in getting your cards squarely put on Amazon right now. Probably nothing I can think of that would be more valuable in the long run or in the short run. And if you can come up with ideas around that and think about it, go from the thinking about a crisis mode to thinking about opportunities simultaneously. In Beth Page's case, with Bank Transfer Day, it became Bank Transfer Year. And we went from a net of 30 or 40 new checking accounts to 300 a month for the preceding year. And it was because we were aggressive in the thought process that you're describing.
Nate just brought up a good point in the chat, contactless payments. Now's the time, credit unions went big on Apple Pay and Google Pay. Now's the time to push that. You don't want to be touching all these, POS devices. It's similar to the ATMs. That's a great point, Nate. The contactless payments, I think.
Yeah, I was actually just at a store a couple of days ago. I bravely ventured out, and the person at the cash register said, "Yeah, a lot more people are going to this thing and just swiping, or not swiping, but not even touching it." So I've seen that trend already, just out in the real world, so to speak.
Yeah, and the credit unions really are if you look at the list of financial institutions, it's just swollen with credit unions. So that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of something to do with that $1,000 advantages for using the debit cards that you have. Throw in the Skip-a-Pays are really good. That's always helpful. That'll buy some time, and waiving those fees is very generous. I do agree. I also think your ATM income is going to go down because people are going to stop using them, and you're going to stop seeing the foreign activity. I need to prepare for that drop. I'm hoping it's offset by interchange. If it's offset by the interchange, because you'll see a higher rate of debits. If you know, need to look at the members, particularly your elderly members who may not have debit cards and have dealt in cash for a long time. Might be worthwhile to have some help for them. But I'm just, like I said, I just tend to spitball on, you know, I take a situation and try to think how can we use it and help ourselves, but also, you know, drive service to the members and the staff and their families. The big thing, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, the other thing, John, to consider is, you know, in a crisis like this, there often are transformative elements. And we could see certain things that are occurring, and we have to consider what they might be, like contactless cards become now the forefront.
Yep.
You know, how are those services now going to embed themselves in our society? More use of work from home from the staff side. So how do we, you know, capitalize on that or put systems in place that put us in a place for long-term success for those types of changes? Less use of ATMs, you know, all across the board.
Yeah, you know, the number one catalyst for culture change is always catastrophe.
Yeah.
Well, we still have time, and we have 3 very forward-thinking credit unions here. And you know, is there anything else that somebody wanted to bring up that, you know, you think anybody else can help you with? Keep in mind, this will get recorded, put out there. Other people will comment on it. We're going to have more of these. We have another one coming up this afternoon. We have another or 2 more on Friday, and I'll keep doing it as long as I feel like it helps. I already feel like this, even with the folks we have. I hope you found it helpful.
It's tremendous.
I've already heard a lot of good things. So is there anything else that's on your mind? I'll tell you my big thing. I'm waiting for a credit union to say we had Joe test positive, and we now, you know, we had to send everyone home and they don't have their call center spaced like Joe does, or that's one that weighs on me heavy as I think about it. Have we, I mean, it sounds like we've thought about that, but like, what are you going to do? Because you know they're going to come in there and go, well, who's he sit next to? Like, maybe if you have key employees, maybe you want to isolate them a little bit more. Like, you go sit over there.
Yeah, we try to stay spread out right in the first place.
He or she, you know, that's one thing. And then, you know, a lot of us have elderly family members, and you know, the other thing that's going to happen if they're right about the death toll of this, and I hate to be grim, but they're going to be off time for dealing with deaths in the family. I mean, there's too many credit union employees for that not to have some sort of impact.
Right. We're not an exempt population.
No, unfortunately. How many of you have your entire call center, or your call center has the ability to work from home? Maybe start with Forefront. I know you do, Tom, for sure. Forefront?
We don't have that option right now, currently set up with our technology and everything. From a software standpoint, we could, but just from a hardware standpoint, we're not there.
We, just so you know, I was looking online, and there are a lot of these Grasshopper type programs that are just these call centers in a box that I think most credit unions with a VPN and a laptop could fire up pretty quickly if they wanted to.
We always have had a backup call center at PSCU who handles our cards. So we use them regularly. We use them in overnight and weekends. You know, we're in a good place with that. But we also, one other thing that I wanted to mention, I almost neglected, was we have a back office QSO, member support services. And John, you and Kirk were instrumental in helping us to learn and set those up. So it gives us an additional, it's owned by 3 credit unions in the area, but it gives us a little more distance as well. So we have an isolation of some of those functions. And as we've talked through things, the thing that we're focused on is liquidity. How do we keep members liquid, whether it's increases in credit card balances, limits, overdraft protection limits, you know, skip a pays to keep money in their hand. So the lending function there is focusing on those types of products for us. And, you know, knock on wood, they're all okay down there as well. But they can work remotely as well.
So is anybody seeing people run with their money to the credit union like we saw in 2008? Just, you know, I mean, dumping into money markets and creating volatility there?
We're not.
This is Carl at Forefront. We haven't seen a whole lot of kind of deposits come in or outflows go out. Again, knowing that this is super kind of the beginning of this, I don't expect to see a whole lot in the short term, but I expect, especially if you think about market volatility and everything else that's out there, I do expect that there will be kind of deposit inflows holistically over the next few months.
Yeah, there will be a certain level of, the fear and the flight to quality or security of a federal insurance that we'll see. But the core, my thought was, though, the core of this is not a failure of the economic system. The economic system and the pending recession is a result of an external event.
Yeah,
So
it's not a malicious event, nor is it.
Yeah, it's not where mortgages are all upside down and like we had in 08. That is just the result of a pandemic. So people are not, I don't see people panicking over the money system. It's, it's more of like, am I going to get sick? And also that was 10 years ago. Cash is a different, I don't really use cash. I travel all around the world. I don't use cash. I don't bring it with me. So it's less of an issue. It's more keeping the card, switches up and the card network's working and having access to my cash through those cards. The other thing
that's another place I would, that's a great point. That's another place I would focus on is PayPal, making sure your cards are in PayPal, because that's kind of a hub into all these other, particularly the smaller people that are doing Grubhub and things like that we want to patronize. PayPal is how they're going to pay, so that's a big one. We just recently did some research with the Innovation Club to determine how much money was going out of credit unions towards cryptocurrency. And we were blown away. A smaller credit union saw, just with a smaller footprint, almost $1 million over a 6-month period. Suncoast had $4 million, and the age spread was all the way from 18 to 60. And right now, with that down but starting to go back up, and if you think about a digital currency in terms of what it is, I wonder what that's net effect, because we have so many things that weren't there in 2008 that are tearing at our liquidity a little bit, Venmos and things like that. And Venmo will be another place to get your cards, but thinking about that long term, what does that look like as credit union or as people sort of maybe start to look for other places to put their money to diversify it or to stash it.
Yeah. The other thing that could come out of this too, and I don't mean to give you a plug, but the whole digital identity could become more and more important as people now adapt to more of a remote service delivery and our need to, manage fraud. So that whole, like the CUID and those types of services may become far more critical in the future from a transformative approach.
No, I completely agree.
Hey, John, on your question about deposits and cash inflows and flight to safety, we interviewed 10 large credit unions last week, those above $3 or $4 billion in assets. And about 75% of them said that they had seen inflows of cash coming out of the marketplace, coming out of the market. They assumed the equities markets in a means to try to have cash in this down cycle that's going on in the marketplace.
So does that change, what does that do for people with their cap ratios? Is this why you have it? Is this why you're sitting at 7 or 9%?
One of the reasons, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just wondering, does that happen again? Because that did happen in 2008 where they let us get down to, what was it, 5.5?
Yeah, 6 is the magic number.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, well, I think because we were in our situation, they let some of our bigger ones get a little lower, but that may be something also that the NCUA needs to consider, because I mean, that's what the reserves are there for. If you're going to audit against it in this situation. Another question is, does the pandemic trigger anybody's DR processes? For example, at my old job, a pandemic would have triggered our actual DR if it was declared by the WHO.
Not yet.
Okay. My worry was that you'd be audited against that, and they would look and go, well, you said that if the WHO declared a pandemic, you would do A, Y, X, Y, and Z. And so just something to think about. A lot of us bought these sort of store package DR and business resumption plans and just adjusted them and they had good stuff in there about the pandemics, and we left it. And so just want to make sure everybody's aware of it. All right. Well, is there, hopefully, like I said, I do not have any or all of the answers. I just wanted to put a forum together like this where people could talk, and I'm so thankful that people found opportunity in it. I like to encourage you guys to get each other's information. I do think that, hey, Mike, I think that the point that Tom's making about the regulators might be worth a CU broadcast, maybe to talk.
I wrote that down in my notes for sure, Tom. Yeah, if you want to come on whenever you want, Tom, I'd love to talk about that. It's a huge
That'd be great.
I think bringing some attention to it will help the cause. And I hope that, you'll reach out and get information from Tom. You'll get information from Zach and Carl and from Joe. And there'll be another one this afternoon. I'm hoping, even if 3, it doesn't matter how many people show up. I'll keep doing this because I believe it's very, very useful.
I'm also going to post the recording today in the forum, and also the upcoming one that we're doing this afternoon that will get recorded and that will be posted as well.
Yeah, so if you haven't signed up, the forum's a great place to put some of these questions too. And we're also going to send you a survey, Tim is. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build, like, if you go to the CDC, they have their numbers page. There's this many infections, there's this many that. What we're trying to do is say, okay, out of the credit unions, how many have closed their lobbies? How many have done this? How many have done that? And we'd like to keep that up to date because we think that's useful for you guys. How many have waived fees for Skip-a-Pay? How many have done this and that? Because I know those trends are important, and sometimes you look at them and you go, well, if they can do it, then I probably could and should do it. Or maybe you go, well, I wouldn't do it. I don't know, whatever that treatment is. But we're a collaborative industry, and it's our superpower. So that's what this is to, hopefully take an attempt to take advantage of.
John, I wanted to mention one other thing too, if I could. What also is important is to work closely with your leagues, your trade associations from a legislative perspective. We work very closely. We have a great professional relationship with Senator Menendez here in New Jersey, who's on the Senate Banking Committee. So when we run into issues with NCUA, they are really, because we've worked at this over the years, they really step up and help us out and make phone calls. And so if we start seeing from the NCUA start, and we can talk about this later, Mike, and do a video. Working with our legislators has been very helpful in getting some feedback from NCUA where they might not otherwise want to talk to us directly.
Great point. All right. Well, since does anybody else have anything else? I'm open to stay as long as they want. Doug, you have any final words? Anybody from the Crayons? That's the most important people. Anybody else have anything?
No, not for me.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, and I'm going to keep doing these, and so because it's just going to keep changing. So I welcome you to join again. I'm going to run these, twice a week. The last thing I'll say is, if it is that you feel like our services, we're experts in data analytics, we're experts in a lot of the cores, particularly around Skip-a-Pay, those sorts of things. We certainly are having to stop some of our other projects, and we want to, we'd love to take this expertise that we have, and rather than me sit them down for a little while till figuring out whatever the government does, I'd love to put them to work for you. So if you have opportunities, please don't hesitate to reach out. But we also know that it's tough times, but we'll work with you on that. We think we could bring some value. And I just want to thank Mike and especially Doug, who I just threw this idea out and he said, we're on it, we'll support it, we're in, and just jumped right in both feet. And so wouldn't have gotten this done without them. It's a great partnership out here in Denver. So we're thankful for that. Last thing is just please be safe. Don't hesitate to reach out to me personally. I know a lot of you, if there's anything I can help with, if you got something you want to bounce off me, I think you know more than I do, but if it's a tech thing or whatever I can help with, I will. I think Kirk would say the same thing, all of us here. Just be safe and take care of your families. And our hearts go out to all the folks that you're serving and what they've been going through. We want to help you try to serve them.
Hey, John, I just encourage everybody, since you're going to be doing multiple of these, to reach back out to your site because new ideas will probably continue to come. So,
Absolutely.
Just because we're done today, there's probably going to be, a lot more probably really good things that come out from the future ones that haven't been held yet. So people ought to keep checking back.
Yeah, keep checking on the forum. Look for the notes and the recordings. Tim, you're going to send out a survey, and it's going to come from, it was put together really rapidly for data analytics. What's the name of the email? Tim?
It'll be coming from Big CU Survey at gmail.com.
So that's not something weird. That's us. We're just throwing it together, and we don't have time to make it beautiful. And we want to get this data together and put it on the website so you guys can use it.
Great.
And if you could think of something afterwards that you think would be useful or a better format for this or something I could do different, I'm all ears. You were guinea pigs, and I appreciate you all just really coming and engaging. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, John.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well done, guys.